I think it was weird.
Bummer. Yo ho ho, and how's it, everyone? It's the Joystick Show back to talk about some stuff that we either watched, read, and or played. Your three favorite friends again are back. It's me, Drake. That's Thomas.
Hello.
And that's Scott.
How's it?
And Mahalos for hanging out with us this evening. Again, the Joystick Show. Like and subscribe. We've talked about it before. Thomas, hit us with what we're talking about today, please.
Yeah, this is aggressive. All right. We got
thanks for tuning in, guys.
WGA news, which is great. Sorry, what was this, guy?
I said thanks for tuning in, guys. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah,
there you go. Absolutely. We got Rick and Morty news. Oh God, my phone went off.
Bingo. Is that Rick or Morty?
We got Rick and Morty news bottoms. One of you guys have watched that, or I guess both of you guys. We have Continental episode 1, which is a spin-off of the John Wick universe. And we have Ahsoka episode 6, Far, Far and Away. Far, Far away. Far, far and away. Something like that. Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, all right. Well,
the
WGA.
Wigga? Yeah, the Wigga.
I know that we put out a post on the Instagram. I guess I feel like we're all in solidarity. I mean, do we have any objections? No, not really.
I think this is great. It's been almost 5 months, or it has been 5 months since this started. There's people who haven't worked since then. Corporations are losing tons of money. People are losing their houses, are not able to like pay for their kids' schooling, I guess, and all that.
Oh, wow.
So this is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I really am. I'm happy for all these people. Yeah, I don't really know what this means because at the same time, we know that the actors are still striking. So there's not actors that could go back to filming, but at least we can get writers back into rooms writing things.
Yeah, for sure.
So that when the actors get back, then there'll already be content to act about. That makes sense.
True.
I don't know. In terms of strikes, usually it's you have that entity that controls the money, and then the individuals who are actually doing the work. And they're trying to find a happy medium, which I think always kind of everybody compromises per se. But do we know the specifics of what the writers were able to get in terms of like pay, healthcare, things of the such?
Nope.
Okay.
No, not yet. They are putting everything down in, I guess, like approved writing. However, the lawyers are going to write it. So we don't know the stipulations on everything, but we know a few things. That they were fighting for health insurance, like you mentioned. We know that they were fighting for a certain amount of people being in a writer's room. And that kind of is attached to AI affecting the job. So we know that there has to be some kind of regulations on allowing AI to write these shows. And then, because the whole worry was that these studios were going to use AI. They were going to write this whole show. They would hire maybe 1 to 2 writers for way less time with way less writers to finalize this and then send it off to a director and say, okay, here you go, make this. But that doesn't really solve the problem. It doesn't really provide security for these people who'd be able to write on a few shows every year, maybe even one, and be able to make a living off of doing a bunch of work for that show. And that's slowly been, going away. So I think that this is a good thing. I don't know the specifics of it. I think you have to probably be in the WGA or be a studio to figure it out. But
for sure.
But I mean, this really was affecting nationwide activities because even the president has gone on and said this is a great thing that they've come to a compromise because arguably Hollywood and the movie industry is like one of the largest industries for America. So like a lot of these people should be getting back to work to make this money.
Let's export that entertainment. Let's go, America, the best at entertaining in all sorts of ways.
Where are we going with this?
I don't know. I was going to start to say some stuff, but I was like, let's just reel it back. Let's reel it back in.
I was like, oh, let's see where he's going.
Reel it back in.
Yeah, I'm happy
to jump in. I was like, no, let's see what he does.
I'm glad people are working again. That's great.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts on it, Scott?
No, I'm hoping that the actors get what they want as well, and that wraps up shortly. And everyone gets to work again. That'd be great.
Yeah. My thing is every day that they're not working is farther away from Secret Wars.
Yeah.
And what else did we have? Captain America, Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
I'm like, can you stop this craziness already?
Yeah.
Just pay them, let them create this awesome shit, because I'm going to go see the movie 2 or 3 times in theaters, and then I'm buying a bunch of merch for it. I'm probably buying a hat, a shirt, maybe some Funko Pops. Don't tell Christina. But I'm probably going to be buying a lot of shit, Like,
yeah, for sure.
Hurry up.
Yeah.
Because the money will come back to you.
Yeah, it just sucks to all the people working on the sets, all the little jobs that, get done within the whole big picture. They're not working either right now, so that's kind of shitty. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. You're right. Because I heard there was like catering companies going under. There was like hair and makeup companies that were going under. Like they were contracted out by studios and yada yada. So yeah, it's all those little jobs that we don't think about too that are getting affected because all these other people aren't at work. So yeah, for sure. Definitely. All right, Scott, take it away on the next one.
Yo, okay.
Ooh.
Rick and Morty is coming back.
Oh.
Hey, yo, whoa, what's up? Season 7, coming back October 17th with new voice actors. Justin Roiland got into some trouble and they dropped him. But they got...
Justin Roiland was broiling because he was in hot water.
Yep. Show.
Tell us about his allegations.
Let's list it in the notes. So we're going to go into detail. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah. We got,
feel free to look it up.
Got busted for some bad shit.
It's just like, And I think it's
things
like...
and stuff,
Yeah, there's probably court things to be had and whatnot, crazy situation all around. But
yuck.
He was the voice for Rick and Morty. Also, like, would write. There's writers on the show, but he'd write for the show as well. And I know there's a lot of improv and stuff that happens where they like try to do that line again. All the things we're familiar with comedians who do roles and whatnot. But they have,
because we were talking about it a little bit, and you were like, because I don't really watch the show. I'm trying to get into it. Hey, if anybody has any recommendations, including Scott, I guess, like let me know because I'll try to rewatch it. But it never like hit me in a way where I was like, oh, this is so funny, I got to keep watching. Yeah. But I know how much people love it, and I know you watch it, Scott. So like, what you had kind of like a fear about this upcoming season. What was it?
Yeah, like I guess I'm worried. Not so worried, but little part of me is worried that like because I know the show is so like open to sort of like writing on the fly. It seems like he was kind of known for that. So a lot of the weird, even the hesitant ways of like Rick and Morty, how they talk, like I don't know, Rick, or all that little stuttering or like the burping that Rick does and stuff. I feel like it adds to just the ridiculousness of the character. The new voices in the trailer we got, they sound like the characters. I'm just wondering like how it's gonna hit, if it's gonna hit different. Like, is the cadence gonna be weird, or like are we gonna miss like an awesome funny line we could have got from Justin? Not to say like that's all worth like keeping him around or whatnot. Like I don't
worth it.
The
allegations so worth it if we get that one funny line.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I'm in. You don't have to tell me twice.
Yeah.
Free Justin Roiland for one line of humor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm just kidding.
But
no, I'm kidding on that.
No,
wow. God, that's terrible.
No.
I'm going to hell.
It's okay. We'll be there with you. But it seems like the new characters or the new voices are great. We don't know who they are just yet. It seems like they're going to reveal them.
How do you know they're going to be great then, Scott?
Oh, I mean, like we
heard
the trailer.
The trailer.
We don't know who they are.
Oh. Did you watch the trailer?
I've been trying to look.
I didn't watch the trailer.
Check it out. They sound pretty much like
sorry.
them. But it's also like a collage of like scenes. So it's not like one long scene you get to watch. So I think until then, that's when you get to really judge it. But at this point, there's a lot going on in the show. A lot of big picture sort of stuff. So like I feel like that the story will be enough to drive everything at this point.
Yeah, I saw some like Blade throwbacks. Like both of them are dressed like Blade.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's from like Wesley.
I'm pretty excited. There's a lot of cool stuff.
Hilarious.
This season looks like it's going to cover. But yeah, overall, cool. I'm glad it's just back. Like when I first heard about it, I was like, oh my god, like how are they going to do this? Like, is the show just done? Because I really enjoy it. And like, I didn't see them bringing in new voice actors, but let's say they did. And so far, it seems pretty cool. So yeah.
Okay.
We will see. I'm more excited for the show though, but yeah.
Well, okay. So the big question is with the new changes, Thomas, do you think you can get into Rick and Morty based off of your lack of being into Rick and Morty? Also, my lack of being into Rick and Morty. I know Matt tried to, our mutual friend Matt tried to get me to watch it by showing me certain episodes, but like you, Thomas, I was like, it's not hitting me in the spot. You know, it's not finding that.
You know what it is? It's like there are definitely certain episodes that are better than others. I'd have to like kind of comb through them to maybe recommend certain ones to you. But to me, it reminds me of like, it's got all those references, like you said, like Blade and stuff. Like they'll take scenes and like nods from movies and stuff and bring it back. But it's also like a Black Mirror comedy. Like they'll take ideas and you're like, oh, that's a fun thing to go into. But then they'll like throw like sometimes like some dick jokes in there or something. Like just like some really stupid humor. Because you're also like, you're torn between like this guy's supposed to be like the smartest dude in the universe, but he's also like fucking up sometimes in like the dumbest way. Where they're like, really? Like that's
like you're saying
that,
burping, like, making dick jokes.
Yeah, or like you didn't think of that happening, and he's like, oh, you know what? When you can think of something better, like come back at me, okay? And it's just like it brings you right back to like these guys are kind of a bunch of idiots as well, but a lot of cool tech and they can do a lot of stuff you can't do in live action because it's drawn. So yeah, it's just a fun sci-fi show that's got comedy.
Yeah.
So.
You know what? I've heard people say like if you get high and watch it, it's a whole different experience.
You should probably try that.
It's perfect high humor.
I've never done it.
So I think I should try that. Yeah. I think, that might be the method right there where I get like super stoned and I just like let it play. You know, like I'm just let it run for like 2 or 3 episodes because I find that if I have something on in the background, even if I'm like supposed to be doing laundry or whatever, and I just put something on the background, I'm like, oh, you know, I'll just have it there to catch up. By episode 2.5, I'm already in and I'm like not doing what I'm supposed to be doing and I'm just watching the show. Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah,
for sure. Probably gonna and they do stuff too. Like, there's an episode where it's like a universe and a universe and a universe sort of thing. Like his car battery dies and he's like, let me look at this. And then turns out like he created a whole world to run his battery as long as they do this one thing. And then he goes in there and then they're like, we found a new way to make energy. And then they're like, he's like, what? And he's like, we created a world to make energy for us. And he's like, well, okay, like that's why I made you. But he didn't tell him that. So he's trying, and then they keep going in, and then every world made a world for their kind of like, and it's just like, yeah, and I can assume if you're high, you're like even more like, whoa, dude. And it's like funny, it's filled with jokes, it's dumb.
Like how?
Like, whoa, dude. You know? But yeah, I'll try and find some episodes and send it your way. There's some pretty cool ones.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that sounds incredible.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely down to give it a shot. A lot of people love it. Drake, tell us about Bottoms.
So I know the trailer came out and it was kind of like a shock and awe. Everybody was like, "Oh man, what is this?" And I know we've all kind of watched that trailer and we were kind of excited because
first I was shocked.
You were shocked,
and then I was awed.
Oh, shock and awe. Duh. That's how we do it up in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that trailer.
It's Scott had mentioned that it kind of gave some super bad vibes. And after watching it, that definitely comes through, as well as kind of focusing on recent, or I guess you should say current, like high school youth tropes on top of like old school high school tropes on top of kind of like being sort of a parody, but not necessarily. It's not that meta, but it does kind of make fun of itself and the genre. Oh. And also it is kind of like not another teen movie. What?
Okay, God. Yeah, every time you made a good point, you like contradicted yourself.
Yep.
And I just didn't know where the slide was going to end. The slide was going. It had blind turns. It was in the dark.
Yeah.
I felt like we were at like Raging Waters, or what's the one in Hawaii?
Oh, Hawaii Water.
Is it called
Raging Waters? What is it, Scott? You should know.
Hawaiian Waters?
Oh my gosh.
Raging Tsunami Bear.
That's anyways, a water park.
Yeah.
The water park.
That's what it's called, the water park.
I didn't know where we were going to end.
The water park, huh?
Yeah.
Water park.
We only got one.
Man.
Yeah,
I know. It's crazy because it's on an island surrounded by ocean, and then everybody goes to the water park.
Versus, you know what? But the beach no more
beach.
slides, so we go over there.
Yeah, and the beach still costs $57 for getting inside.
Yeah, I pay a little bit more for my corn dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like for get in the water where there's urine everywhere. Huh?
Yeah, that's the life.
But it's a good time.
Yeah.
So if you don't know about Bottoms, like it's got a fantastic cast. There's a lot of new faces. Rachel Sennett and Ayo Ebadiri, who are the two main characters.
She's been in everything lately.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. You've got Marshawn Lynch is up in this.
Yeah,
Marshawn Beast Mode.
Yeah, pretty spectacular. Punky Johnson is also in this. So
funny too.
Yeah, I know.
Really funny.
It was pretty hilarious. And so, Scott, I'll push it over to you after I kind of synopsis the movie.
Go for it.
So the two main characters, PJ and what's her face, Josie, are two lesbian characters. Mm-hmm. They accidentally injure their high school star quarterback, Jeff, who is an atypical like high school quarterback. He's a little bit more sensitive, even though he's kind of a dick jock. But then it kind of messes with that trope. And then it transforms them from awkward outcasts to overnight celebrities because rumors start, and Josie and PJ essentially make this elaborate lie to start this quote unquote fight club because of not only women empowerment and helping out the women in their school, but also because they want to get their fingers in holes that they want. And that becomes a big kind of story driver moving forward. And the summer is up and coming, but along with their equally awkward friend Hazel and teacher Mr. G, who is Marshawn Lynch, this self-defense club for women attempt to lose their virginities to Brittany and Isabel, who are the cheerleaders they have a crush on, who are played by Havana Rose Liu and Akaya Gerber, both lookers. But Scott, over to you. How did you feel about it, see it, view it, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, overall, the movie is hilarious. Like I mentioned earlier, it does kind of remind me of Superbad. The dialogue between the two main characters, it's very like modern, I feel like, but it's also like just the way they phrase certain things is hilarious. They're great friends, and they're just like looking to get laid, and then this group that they create, they end up creating a big bond with them, and it's like, like women empowerment, all that stuff, and like that's what everyone else is getting out there, and they eventually get that out of they get that too, but then it comes back to like, of course, everyone finds out why the groups was created and whatnot. So there's like even like good like drama in it and whatnot, but overall, like there's a lot of jokes.
Finds out that they created the group to like finger blast people.
Oh yeah. And then they come out. Yeah.
It pimps and it delivers.
Yeah.
Nice.
But overall, like I feel like all the characters were great. Like all the characters in the Fight Club they create were either hilarious or they really fit the role that they were playing really well. The guy
unique.
Was that.
Oh, I'm saying they were unique.
Oh yeah, they were very unique. The guy Nicholas Galitzine, Jeff, the guy who plays Jeff.
Jeff.
Super over the top, but it's hilarious. Like the whole injury that takes place is like they like barely bump him with their car, like
barely.
Just like, and he's like, oh, and he falls to the ground. He's like, and he starts crying, and then the football team runs over super dramatic, like, what'd you do to Jeff? And it's just like so ridiculous. And they're like, we gotta get the hell out of here. So and then like funny. He's coming in the next day with crutches and like, and then in that same scene, at the end of the scene, he walks out holding his crutches, staring at them. Like it's like so. His character and the football team are so crazy over the top, but it's hilarious because like the whole school just believes anything they say, like no matter how ridiculous it is. And then you go back to like Josie and PJ. They're a little more grounded, their story, but it's still ridiculous because their fight club is like, we're going to teach you how to fight. And they're just punching each other in the face and like in the stomach. And then the coach at first, there's a bunch of times where he's like, okay, I don't know about this. And they're like, no, like we're teaching. He's like, okay. And I guess he saw the bigger picture, so he was letting it fly. But they were literally just beating the shit out of each other every day, which was hilarious.
It was pretty hilarious.
But yeah, overall, the movie was really funny. I definitely recommend going to see it. It was actually like refreshing to see a movie like this.
Some key things to to hit on is like the women empowerment is there.
Yes.
But it's not so in your face. It's like, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, the story is really well written in that sense, and it plays out very well. There are moments of very seriousness, especially when it comes to like lesbian love and kind of coming out and like putting yourself out there as a person. And then there's also kind of the relationship in terms of regular relationships, especially with like Isabel and Jeff, like those types of tropes as well too. And then you have deeper parental issues, and then you have deeper emotional issues, and these things that happen in school and how it affects. There's a point in time where Jeff is getting lunch from the lunch lady, and then she puts a fruit cup on there, and Jeff's number 2 guy, Tim, played by Miles Faller, is like, "What are you fucking doing, lunch lady? Is this fucking pineapple? You know Jeff's allergic to pineapple," and that becomes a big thing. And so Jeff is like, "Yeah,
there's
fuck
even like
you,
a
bitch," and then
sign on the wall, right?
I know. Yeah. It's so funny. So he throws the fucking cup behind him, and it hits an emo kid, and he's like, "You know what? Fuck it. It's the last straw." And then he turns the page of what he's writing on, and he's like, "Blowing up the school."
Yeah,
right?
he's like creating a plan, and then it cuts up.
Yeah, there's like serious things that happen and are real. At the same point in time, it's not overdone, but the comedy imbues itself, just like comedy does, to be able to lend itself to like these more serious topics. And this movie does it really well, even though it's kind of supposed to be this like fun situation.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like Superbad, like you were saying, but what made Superbad so great was that it felt real in a way. You're like, any high school could have these nerds who want to go to the party and like get the hot girl, and all they got to do is bring the booze to the school or to the party, and then they can get with the girls or whatever, right? But like this kind of has, or from the sounds of it, like that element of realism where you're like, oh shit, this could probably happen. Like one of these things, probably not all of these things in like a short amount of time, but you're like, oh, these characters feel like they're going to a real school. And so because of that, it makes the comedy feel like more real, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Or like the situation.
Especially the 2 main characters, like their relationship and like their just everyday talk. They're not ones that are super popular. Oh, and that's another thing too. Like there's like a callback to their lockers every other scene. It seems like. So at the beginning it was like, it was like lesbians, or they were like, people were like, they're the gay people, and like weird.
Yeah, lesbian 1, lesbian 2,
lesbian 2, and then it was like badass, or like it was like updating, and then like there was a guy, the maintenance worker in the building, he would like come by and like in the beginning, like lesbian 1, lesbian 2, he comes by and then they're like, can you hit it up? He's like, yeah, he had the blue paint. He's like painting over it, and then there's a part later in the movie where like it says something because the main characters fuck up. And he just walks by and he's like, no, like not today. And she's like, no, like Carl. And he's like yelling down the hall, and he's just walking away like, no, you got to sit with that. Like it's just so funny. But there's definitely like real moments, and then they throw in like these kind of bizarre types of like funny little skits in it almost. Yeah, it's really good.
Damn.
Yeah, if you've been to high school, you'll get it.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's awesome. I mean, it seems like anybody can appreciate it if you've been to high school. So, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I like the main characters. The trailers looked fantastic. I got to go check that out. For sure. It sounds really freaking good. Yeah. Anything else on bottoms?
It's the tops.
There you go. Enough said.
There you go. All right.
All right. So we got a new show from the John Wick universe. It's now on Peacock. I tried to watch the first episode, fell asleep because of pain medicine. So for my last surgery, Scott, you did, and we're able to finish the first episode of the Continental. What'd you think about it?
It's pretty cool. Like, it's, for me, my first thought was like, it kind of reminds me how Gotham felt. You know, Gotham followed Commissioner Gordon and like his point of view and whatnot. And in this one, it follows Wilson Scott, who ends up being the guy who runs the Continental in the John Wick movies. And it's like, I guess like his upcoming, or his upbringing or whatever.
Like Rise to Power.
Rise to Power, yes, thank you. Because they even show a young Lance Reddick, you know, what's his name, Charon? Yeah. Like, it's like you see young versions. So you see a lot of like young versions of all these characters. Currently in the show, like Mel Gibson plays a character who runs it, and like he brought up Wilson Scott and his brother Ben Robson, who plays Frankie. He kind of brought them up, and then I guess they don't have a good relationship with him. So like, they're at some point Mel Gibson's gonna have to like step out, and then Wilson Scott's gonna take over, whatnot. But he's like in his like maybe 20s or whatnot. He was doing really well in London, and he was kind of kidnapped and brought over because his brother took something, which ended up being like a coin press, and they're like, we need that coin press back, and like
the special coins
like the special
that they use to pay for everything in the John Wick.
So his brother took that.
Thing.
Was that?
I thought it was like the penny where you put the penny in and you like pay it $20 and then
you
pay $20 and you get a flat penny.
Yeah.
With like a whale on it.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I got a seal.
Yeah, and one is a machine gun. But so he's brought over, and like in the beginning, you're introduced to his brother, and his brother seems more like a John Wick type of character. He's just like they were describing him like, you give him any sort of weapon, and he learns really quick how to use them and how to apply them in the best way. So there's a lot of cool scenes in this first episode where he's just like John Wicking people, like just grabbing guns and boom, 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 and throwing knives and shit, and like it's really cool. And then the Wilson Scott character seems more of like the businessman, smart, creative strategy sort of thing. But yeah, overall, it feels like a TV show, kind of like Gotham, but I did like it because at one point they incorporate like some assassins that lived in the building. They like hire them, like, hey, can you go and take Wilson Scott out and his brother? Like, and then they're called the twins, and they look weird. They have like weird haircuts and shit. But they were cool badass
what
killers.
Kind of weird haircut.
Yeah, so I'm hoping
like, your hand motion made me think Vanilla Ice.
Yeah. Oh no! So the brother had like long hair that came up to like here, like almost like there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just really weird. It sit on his head really weird, like just straight bangs.
Did he walk like an Egyptian?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Your hands are doing Egyptian poses.
Yeah, he was Egyptian, and like his sister looked less weird, racist. But they were badass killers, and like I'm hoping that as the show goes on, we get to see more cool, just weird hitmen that like just stay at the hotel. That would be cool.
Like quirky and different and interesting. You're like, oh shit, like this, they have this kind of assassin in the John Wick universe.
Yeah, because for me too, like watching John Wick, it was always kind of fun to see like when they're like, we got the hit out on him. And then you get to see like all the different groups, and like, you know, like that in the last one, that dude had a dog and he was like a tracker, but he's also a hitman. So like, it's kind of cool to see like the different levels and how they attempt to kill people and whatnot. So I hope they do more of that. So far it seems good. It's the first episode's like an hour and a half, so it's kind of like a movie.
Okay.
Damn. Interesting. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
But it's only a 3-parter, I think. I think there's only 3 episodes.
Oh,
3 episodes?
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like every Friday they're gonna release it. So I didn't realize it was 3-parter. But that's pretty cool. That's kind of like a UK format. Like Sherlock was like that, right?
Yeah.
It was like hour and a half,
Sherlock,
3 episodes a season. Yep. The Benedict Cumberbatch one. But they were kind of standalone.
Do you feel it does the John Wick series justice, or do you feel like it is very tangential?
I feel like, I mean, I guess so. It's like how the Continental, maybe, I'm assuming like how it really got its reputation. I mean, because there's certain cops in the first episode that are very aware of the Continental, and like we don't fuck with them. If like we're chasing a dude and they go in there, we don't go in there. But they're following. You see a detective point of view who's like just kind of finding out about it, and like her boss is like, "Fucking drop it, don't go in there." And she's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Just don't." And there's a part where she kind of goes in, just in the entrance, and she like buys a drink with cash, and everyone's like looking at each other like, okay, well, she's not one of us. Because then later she sees people like doing everything with a coin, you know? And she's like, so she's seeing the coin or whatever, and then she ends up leaving. But so it's going to be interesting to see maybe more of the Continental from her perspective going forward. Maybe she's going to sneak into certain areas or whatnot, and we're going to get to see some behind the scenes shit.
It's kind of interesting. That's much cooler. Yeah. That's so cool to see it from a civilian perspective versus like the assassin perspective. That's interesting.
Right, yeah, because then we're going to see her, I'm sure, like trying to break it down to people like, there's this place that like is really weird. Do you know about it? And there's going to be people like, yeah, you better shut your fucking mouth. Or like other people like, go check it out. Murder. So yeah, I'm pretty interested in that storyline for sure.
Unless you want cement shoes or be
it's Thirsty Thursdays, girls only.
Yeah, I don't think it's but then she ends up in a trunk or something.
Yeah.
That's gonna be wild. Okay, cool. That you definitely sold me on it because, I was like, I think I saw that it was an hour and a half, and I was like, I don't know, but that opening scene seems pretty badass. And then young Lance Reddick, like, just kind of honoring that character too, is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be interesting to see what the rest of the world thinks about the Continental. Like, that's a place that crazy people can go to, but like we can't go, and I don't know. It's just interesting. So yeah, I feel like you sold me on that element of intrigue.
Yes. Element of it. Was the production okay? Just real quick.
Ooh, good point.
Yeah, it was.
Does it feel like a WB show, like the Gotham show? Kind of felt less production-y than versus John Wick, or
it does feel like so. While watching it, I was kind of asking because I don't know too much about how films and shows are made or whatnot, right? And I was wondering like, why do shows feel like shows and movies feel like movies? Like, is it like layers that they're going through and produce? Like, I don't know what it is exactly. Is it like certain directors just have, this is the type of shots we use for TV shows versus movies? Like, I don't know what it is exactly, but it does feel like a TV show. It feels familiar, like the scene changes, the beat. Like, that's why I felt like Gotham, because it's like, it's similar things. Like, you're following Commissioner Gordon, you're following the dude who ends up running the Continental. You kind of got villains of the week, you got the hitman. And then you got side stories that are kind of flowing through the cities. Like, it's like Gotham, it feels like. It's like they're showing you like dirty streets, whatever. And they're just showing you like kind of the dark sides of it. Like, and just the way scenes transition and all, it just kind of, it feels like a TV show, but it feels like a good one. Like, it feels like it's like any good TV show on now, it just doesn't feel like a movie per se. I don't know why, but it's good. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. And that's an interesting question. I find myself asking that a lot, especially as we get shows like House of Dragon or whatever else, right? It's like House of Dragon, just every week it feels like a movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, how'd they do this? And it's the quality of acting. You're right. It is the shots, it's the cinematography, it's the way things feel. It feels so like believable and lived in, where, it'd be interesting to watch the Continental and then when it's done, jump into John Wick.
Yeah.
Because then I'm sure it's like, oh shit, like this. Either it feels pretty consistent, it feels like the same universe, which I think ideally is the goal, but also you don't want it to feel like different qualities either, which I think is what you were kind of touching on. And for me, that's the thing. Like, like the Marvel shows, right?
Yeah.
Some of the Marvel shows have not felt like the movies. They haven't felt as important. They haven't felt as grand. They haven't felt like connected to that universe in some ways. And I think that has been a giant miss from the shows when you're talking about, because what phases 1 through 3 did well, where like everything felt like they were in the same universe, amazing quality, fantastic acting, great special effects, but it all felt like the same universe. I think if you're going to build out side stories for an extended universe, like it should feel like how the movies feel, even if you don't have as big of a budget. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to like think about it that way. And I know somebody listening probably has the answers to why.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear a breakdown on that. Like, because I just don't have the knowledge for it.
Yeah, likewise. Right on. Yeah, Continental, episode 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's a 3-part, but yeah, definitely have to check that out before episode 2 drops, which is on Friday.
Yeah, every Friday it seems. And on Peacock. Check it out.
On Peacock.
Definitely. Peacock, NBC.
That's right. All right, we're gonna get sued for that. Ahsoka, episode 6. Yeah, don't worry, he did it with his mouth. It doesn't count.
Yeah,
not a.
But let's get into it, man. So I'll start by saying this: after episode 5, which was pretty damn near perfect television. Again, we're talking about television versus movies or whatever, but it just, for me, just did everything perfectly. Now, was it a perfect episode? Was it the most perfectly well-written episode? Probably not. But it was the one of the most perfectly executed episodes I've ever seen. And so for me, I already thought episode 6 is not going to live up to the standards. There's no way episode 6 is going to be as good as 5 because 5 was so damn good. But I liked it. I thought that episode 6 did a good job of like, okay, now this is back to the main story that we were following. Here's where all the characters were before episode 5. Here, let's catch you up on everything. And I really thought they did a good job with it. Now I'm curious. I'm definitely curious what Drake has to think because he's seen all the Clone Wars and Rebels. But before we do that, I want to hear what you think, Scott, because you haven't watched all of the Clone Wars and Rebels. Like, what did you think about this episode? Because I think this was a big deal for people who watched Rebels.
Yeah. So, the amount of I know about Rebels and Clone Wars is like very little. Like I know Ezra as a character. Like I've seen maybe like the first episode or so, like, so I kind of like know that he's a dude, like that's important, but I've never really watched like their adventures, their ups and downs and whatnot between the characters. From my perspective, the episode was still really well done. Like, the build up to this character, like you feel the importance through other characters and their dialogue. And then when you see them, when you get to see Ezra in this episode, it still feels like if you're watching a movie where you're hearing about this character and his importance and you see him, like I know he's important. And then there's also, I think the dialogue, like there's still like tension. Like he's like, I can't wait to go home. And she's like, oh, I don't know if we're gonna, like, so there's still like that story element to it where it's not just like, for the fans, we'll just throw it in there. Like it doesn't need to be here. Like it's still going to carry on the story. Like everything's working well. So I thought it was really cool. Like the whole riding the whale in and all that stuff. Like I heard about that. But I still a big fan of sci-fi and whatnot. So that was awesome. Even I know we'll touch more on this, but Thrawn was awesome. I've only heard about how like good of a villain he is. Just seeing him in this little bit is awesome. Like very calculated. And he is menacing.
Like quiet.
He's quiet,
yeah,
and like
right?
he looks kind of like a creepy dude. Like because he's so stern, and he looks like he's figuring you out always. Like this guy did such a good job. And like, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Thrawn. Like not like him being a bad guy, but I'm like, this is a great villain. Like I just met this dude, and I'm pumped for like more Thrawn. So from my perspective, the episode was really cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure Drake, you have a ton of thoughts, but yeah, I'm happy to hear your thoughts. Sorry, real quick, Drake, on Thrawn, because it's like we're hyping him up because we know Thrawn is this big, menacing badass, and what he was able to do to the rebels and all this shit. You're like, oh my god, but yeah, I'm like, could they capture that for somebody who doesn't know Thrawn? And it sounds like from your perspective, they did. So that's great. Yeah. Another win for Filoni, man.
Oh, yeah,
fuck,
dude.
you scratching me with
everything.
This.
Yeah, dude, he's so good at his job. And Star Wars. But to give the take on for someone who's watched Rebels, who's watched Clone Wars, everything that Ahsoka has done has not only brought those things into the fold, almost realizing them from animation into live action. And there's a lot of, I think, interpretations of what Ahsoka is doing from many different like reviewers and source points, etc., especially fans of Star Wars. And if you're a fan of Star Wars, you're definitely loving it regardless of anything. For me, this episode raises a lot of questions, but also brings a lot of hope. Almost a new hope, if you would. We know we know the last 3 Star Warses with the Rey character were very controversial, and it created this polar vacuum where people were like, I fucking hate it, I fucking love it, like, oh, it's the best, it's not the best. But what I think for me feels like the continuation of Star Wars from episode 8 or 7, 6.
It's funny,
6.
You gotta look at the timeline one of these days.
Yeah, I gotta look at the timeline.
For the last 2 episodes, I feel like you've tried to figure out where it is in the timeline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. This takes
is
place
post 6, right?
6.
Yeah,
yes.
it's post 6.
Exactly.
So for me, this is the continuation from 6. And reason being, I before you put your head down and put that Seahawk down, it's mostly because from Rebels, from Clone Wars, which were canonized quite early, you really get to see the evolution of the characters and the genre without having to keep the trope of the Skywalker family alive. And so Ahsoka is carried through just because she was technically the Padawan, but it's a whole different story where she's figuring out her own shit. There's no real Jedi situation going on, even though we know Luke Skywalker's in the background from The Mandalorian at the same point in time.
Like, what do you mean no? Because like to me, I feel like she's redeemed herself as a Jedi. I feel like we're getting more Jedi in this than we even got in the sequel trilogy.
Yes.
You know, like Rey was trying to become a Jedi, but like as soon as we find out about the new Jedi Order with Luke, it like gets burned down, you know, and it's like, I feel like we got less there.
It's silly Billy. Well, so what I mean by we're getting less Jedi is we're not solely focused on like the order, right? We're not focused on the politics of it all. We're focused on the actual like essence of what it is being. And you get to see it from both sides, both from Baylan and from Ahsoka and from someone like Ezra, who's not necessarily of the fold, right?
Yeah,
he's kind of like that.
A Boken Jedi, I think you're calling him. So anybody who is trained after the Jedi Order fell is called like a Boken Jedi, and so I guess he falls in that classification now. Yeah,
they're not trained in like the traditional ways.
Right.
And what we're seeing with Baylan, the New Hope situation is what he's looking for on Peridia right now. That thing that's going to help change for him the cyclical portion of Sith Jedi battle war, Sith Jedi battle war. And so what he's hoping to break is tangential, but also in the same line as what Ahsoka and Sabine and the Rebels crew is doing to continue on that kind of situation. So for me, Baylan's French tilt is going to help propel essentially Star Wars into a new galaxy, because technically we are in a new galaxy. This is one of the first times we're not having a multiverse. We're having a multi-galaxy. There's galaxies inside or other galaxies that we have not visited that not only have Force sensitives, that not only have Jedi, but have this lore and this culture throughout multiple different galaxies. And that's interesting because now you can expand upon not only what these cultures of galaxies think about these certain things, whether it's Sith or Jedi or the Force as a whole, but you get to expand upon kind of the quote unquote expanded universe. It could potentially bring in the Yuuzhan Vong, who are a huge thing in the expanded universe. And especially with someone like Thrawn, who's I guess what is his species is called Chiss. And they're known essentially for not having droids, for being super intelligent, for being super calculated. And we don't necessarily have to rely on that dominating, I'm a Sith Force user to kind of help propel this villain background. And that to me is really nice, even though you kind of have the Night Sisters kind of in the fold behind. You get to see this very like, to an extent, cinematic space vibrance with these hints of new characters in a familiarity that makes you interested, but also doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
Right. It still feels like it's packaged in a way that you've seen before, but it still feels new because it is new concepts, right? Yeah, and I think you touched on such a good thing. For the longest time in Star Wars, it's been, are you a Jedi or are you a Sith? Are you good or are you bad? And I love that this show is showing us this new world where it's like, it doesn't have to work that way. You know, it doesn't have to just be either you're completely attached to the light side of the Force, which means that you have no attachment to anything else. You know, you're always going to be on the side of the peace. You know, you have a blue or green lightsaber, or you're evil. You have attachment. You think you can rule everything, and you're a Sith. And I love that. I mean, I feel like they tried to do that in the original trilogy with Luke. Like Luke embracing some other things outside of the traditional side of the Force with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda showing him, hey, there's some other different things. He comes dressed in black. He has a green lightsaber now. I think he was embracing some other maybe dark side elements a little bit, and they dabbled in it, but then it never really went there, or it never went there in any other property. And this show is going there. And that's why I was surprised that Ahsoka still is this light side Force user, because the arc for Ahsoka that I thought was happening was she was becoming this Jedi or this Force user that was kind of walking in two worlds, right? She was imbued with the daughter who was a light side Force user, and Ahsoka's always going to be good, and she's got the white lightsabers. But now's an opportunity for her to kind of give into some of the dark side of the Force, and it's going to allow her to do more things. Now, in this episode, I feel like, no, okay, that's not happening, but we are open to Ezra, and also the door is still wide open for what the fuck is Baylan and Shin doing? Like, what is their goal? Like, he says, okay, we're here at this is the origin, this is where it started, and this is where we're gonna, start everything new again. But I still don't know what that is, and it's pretty interesting. I love that I don't have an idea of it, but I'm a little nervous too that it's not gonna live up to what's. I don't have any idea in my head, but I'm just hoping it's not going to be one of those things when we find out it's like, oh, that's it. You know, like, I don't know. What do you think it is that he's like, this is where it all starts?
I don't know. Like part of me, when he was saying that, made me think that maybe putting out Ezra's light would be that thing. Like, you know how you were saying, like, it seemed like that is going to keep that circle going of like, you get the new Jedi and then maybe a new order and all that stuff. I don't know, like, I could be super wrong, but the way he was talking, everything, it seemed like his goal was also hoping to find Ezra, ending the whole Jedi thing, and then being like that's it. Like, it sounds like he's here to die here. Like as long as he finishes this thing, he's like, that's it. And unfortunately for Shin, she seems like she wants, she has more life to live, and she's like just following her like master. And he's just like,
plans.
Yeah, it seems like almost like, okay, that was it. If they take off, fuck it. This is what I wanted to do. And I don't know. Maybe at some point, I don't know if she's gonna turn at one point and be like, dude, I'm not with you. Like, I want to, I got trips. I
want to live, damn it.
I got vacation coming up. Like.
I'm like 21. I like want to live at least till 30. Like, I want to get out.
I want to go to Ibiza. Like,
Coachella, bitches.
So there are some theories. There are plenty of theories, to be honest, about what Baylan is looking for. Father, son, and daughter, which you see in Clone Wars and Rebels. And Immortus gods, and then some people think they're gonna find Yoda's species, just because we haven't really talked about that in general. And we are in a new galaxy.
I don't want that. Don't do that.
Because then it brings
I don't want to know.
A world full of Yodas, like.
I just want to like some things in Star Wars. See, and this is like a problem with some people with the world between worlds. It's like for the longest time, the Force felt mystical. It felt
Metachlorians.
Metachlorians was one of those steps that actually made it become more scientific and less magical.
Yeah.
Like when you can say, I can count your metachlorians, and that basically notifies me on how much power you're going to have with the Force. It kind of feels like, oh, you can kind of explain it away because of DNA. Yeah. And I'm kind of in that camp where I don't really want to know why someone can wield the Force.
Math is lame.
Yeah, like
thank you.
Math is lame. No, but like Sabine, she has this like, does she have the Force? Does she not? Does she have it? Does she not? And is it because she's so drawn to it and needs to find the will of the Force, like she's going to be able to tap into it? Something about that feels more special than you're just born with it or you're not.
Oh, I see. Like, she could be like a couple steps away from just like unlocking it, maybe. Or something.
It seems more earned and less seems more earned and is less calculated.
Yeah, or less like circumstances of, which is funny because they're both kind of random, but it's like, it's like, oh, either you're born in a millionaire family or you're born in the gutter. Like, you know what I mean? Like it shouldn't feel like, well, they were all born to millionaires, and that's why they all have the Force. It's like, I don't really want that. I want it to feel maybe more special and something you can't really explain. And I hope they stick with that. But I do agree with you that I think that his mission is leading him to a confrontation with Ezra. And I don't know why, and maybe you're right. Maybe he sees Ezra as the final point that will end this line, this circular a series of events that causes war and chaos and more people to die and yeah, but I just feel like it's leading him towards him, and I feel like it's going to be Sabine and him, hopefully Ahsoka too, that has to battle them to fight them off. Yeah. And that, they're able, because then I think after that, it's on Thrawn to escape this galaxy and go back to the galaxy that we know, so then he can restart the Empire.
Yeah.
It is also quite interesting because if Balin is a Jedi, he would have had to have survived Order 66, and he would have had to have known that Hayden Christensen's Anakin has murdered all the younglings. So to see him not have as much animosity towards Ahsoka versus his animosity towards the greater is telling on not only his character and where the Jedi / Force is headed, but like where kind of Star Wars is headed.
Yeah, you can tell he really has a lot of respect. I mean, because even in this episode, she's like, "Oh, Master, do you miss the Jedi Order or whatever?" Right? And he's like, "I miss the idea of it."
Yeah.
And man, that line, he just delivers it amazing. I feel like it hits so hard because he knows what happened because of the Jedi Order, right? Like they became soldiers when they should have been peacekeepers. They started following the government, started following the ways of the Force, and all this shit imploded and Order 66 happened. And all these Jedi were hunted. But like the idea of the Jedi were fantastic. These people who were living for something outside of themselves, that were trying to provide peace around the galaxy, to make it a safe place for everybody in the galaxy, a safe place for them to live.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of good there. So I love that line because I think at his core, he realized that there was a lot of good about the Jedi, but also all this bad shit happened because of the Jedi as well. And so he can't have one without the other. Yeah. They're forever intertwined in his mind. And yeah, just the way he delivers it, I feel like you get that out of that line. I don't know.
For sure. Man, and it sucks is like every great scene I see him in, I'm reminded and bummed again that he's not with us.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, dude. He's so good. Yeah. Such a good role.
Yeah, absolutely. I love everything he's bringing to the table. Thrawn kind of recognizing him and them recognizing Thrawn, tying into the Night Sisters. Like there was this whole idea of the threads, the threads of fate is taking it this way. I think that's
Odyssey.
Yeah, absolutely. Great call out. Very, very, like, I don't know, Roman Greek. Yeah. Odyssey, I think, is just a great
Epic
word for it. Yeah, totally. And I'm just curious, what do the Night Sisters, or what does Thrawn have that the Night Sisters want?
I know,
first
right?
of all. Yeah, that's really interesting. We get a side of Sabine here where we've seen her be a badass in Rebels, and I feel like she kind of lost it a little bit so far in the show. Now, in this episode, we get to see her go all out against these kind of Tusken Raiders in a different galaxy. That was badass because you're like, I really was like, oh shit, she's in for it. But the way she was like blocking the laser shots with her Beskar armor was sick.
Yeah.
More Mando than Jedi for sure.
Yeah, totally. But maybe tying in some things she learned, that whole part was cool. Now at the end, we see, before we get there, we get to see those crab creatures. I really like those
me too.
things.
That was a nice addition.
Hermit crabs.
And her,
but it was like,
oh, sorry. And her, like wolf buddy. Like I like those little scenes.
Yeah.
Her dog wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
It was nice.
Such a Filoni thing too, because he's like a massive fan of wolves.
Yeah.
They play a big part in Rebels too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last like 4 or 5 episodes. For sure.
Yeah. So he has like this tie to like wolves or whatever. But I love how he tied that character in. And if you look at that wolf thing and you look at Rebels, the world between worlds, one of those wolf creatures is in there on one of the gates. So a little Easter egg for you when you go back and watch Rebels.
Oh, cool. Okay. Nice.
But yeah, a lot of really fun work there. I loved the aliens in this and like the different creatures. It felt like kind of a nod. It just felt a lot like nostalgic again, I think is what I'm trying to say. It felt nostalgic. It felt like old Star Wars. We're like, oh, look at all these crazy aliens that just exist in these worlds. And it didn't feel cheesy. Like I feel like The Mandalorian has done that, and some of it's worked for me and some of it hasn't. And I think in this episode, in this whole show, it's really, really worked.
Yeah, it feels like expanded Star Wars universe. Like it feels like they're actually like going out there and you're seeing more new creatures, it's great. Almost like when you play the video game and you're like, whoa, look at all these new stuff they created. This like it feels like that. Like you're down for it, but it still feels Star Wars. I'm liking that.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of callbacks. I love that you brought in the games too, because I think there's more callbacks to the games in this too. Somebody has translated some of the runes on top of the place where Balin and Shin leave from. And I guess if you translate it and you flip them upside down, it says something about Zepho. And Zepho, if you played the games, is like a planet on in Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh,
so
cool.
yeah, man. So more tie-ins to the games, but man, I just want to see Cal Kestis. Like, give me Cal Kestis in live action. I want Cal Kestis more than I want Ezra. But in this episode, we got Ezra finally brought to live action. What did you guys think about that? Because I have some thoughts.
I think the casting's pretty good in consideration. The beard is obviously showing the time away. I think, it's hard to do because Ezra had in the animation, Ezra had blue eyes, and the skin tone kind of brought out the blue eyes. But this person in general has to be wearing contacts in order for the eyes to be blue, etc. So there is some concessions made, but at the same point in time, I thought it was good. It wasn't great in terms of the acting. It's good. It's nostalgic enough. I would, it's par for the course for me. I don't think it excites me any more than anything else. Scott?
No, I thought it was good. Like, I don't really know much about him, but that I did like.
What was your first thoughts? You're like, okay, she finally sees Ezra. Like, what's your thoughts? Like, were you like, who the fuck's this guy? Or like anything?
Oh no, I was
good,
like, well, that's
bad?
gotta be Ezra. And then I was thinking like, I wonder how he survived this long. Like, I wonder what his thing is. And then at one point they're like, oh, we gotta move. We gotta keep moving. And it just made me think like, they don't need to do a whole episode on it, but it'd be cool to just get like information like, what is their day to I just kind of like knowing that. Like, what's their day to day? He's been living with these things. Like, what does he eat there versus what they eat? Is his digestive thing all... There was a lot of questions that make me think like, wait, what? And then I'm like, oh, it's not real. So just go with it. Like when they first arrived and like these whales go here to die, and you see decomposed whales. And then I immediately went to Google and I'm like, does your body decompose in space? And I was like, you need oxygen to decompose. But I'm like, they're space whales. Like they don't need oxygen. Like they could, I'm like, they could decompose in space.
Yeah.
But it just made me think
there's
like
enough
if
oxygen
we were out there
from the planet. Or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But I was just like, oh, it's still a really cool scene to enter into. But immediately I'm like, is that possible? And I'm like, they're fucking space whales. Like that's not possible. So chill out, dude. I came up and told myself like, dude, chill out. Fucking watch it. Like so.
Yeah. So the whole time with Ezra, you're like, but those Purgles, man, how do they die in space?
Yeah.
Or like, how do they decompose?
No, but then I'm like,
I want to know
fish?
that.
Like, what kind of fish they got here? You think? Like, what is he eating? What's
why?
Because
he looks like Jesus. You think he's a fisherman?
Yeah.
Yeah. He turns water into wine,
yeah,
or
exactly.
what?
Like,
Oh, what, Jinx?
Yeah. I don't know.
For me, it felt a little lackluster. And I wanted it to be this whole like, but the fact that there was a lot of dialogue before they like went, and this whole time it felt like Sabine was like, Ezra, right? Like, I'm going to damn the whole galaxy in order to get to Ezra. She gets to Ezra, then it's like, how you been? Yeah, I've been good. Okay, cool. What have you been doing? Yeah, I've been doing things.
Not only that, though,
Okay,
it was like it took you long enough. well, I need to pick up some supplies. It was like they go right back into these jokes, and I was like, I didn't watch Rebels, so I'm like, they must always like give each other shit or something in the show, maybe. Like they're always like,
I mean, sort of, but I never got that from them. But I hear what you're saying.
Too
Yeah,
casual
like
to
for
be
you.
like, oh my fucking god! Like it would have been great if she was like, they were crying and be like, yeah, no big deal, and just like, like because it's like they're trying to play it cool, but really you'd be like, holy fuck, you're actually alive. God.
Exactly.
I took the biggest chance ever. I risked like the galaxy's life. And he's just like, all right, no big deal. I mean, I knew it. So.
See,
yeah,
yes.
I agree
and that's the thing. It was way too casual. And then he asked, like, it worked, right? And she's like, he's like, it worked, right? And she's like, yeah. It's like, why lie to him at this point?
Well, we'll talk later about it.
Like, it just was a little lackluster. They were so casual. You're right. It wasn't, I just expected her to just run up and give him the biggest bear hug and like not let him go. And then to almost have that conversation while they're hugging or something like that. And then she follows it up with a lie. And it's like, Sabine, for me, yes, she finds Ezra, and that was her main goal. But like, she continues to do the wrong things, and I'm like, I don't think she's gonna be redeemed for me by the end of the show, because she just keeps like doing these things. It's like, why are you being so shady about this? Why are you making this choice? And it's like one time you make a mistake, it's like, okay, I get it, but like,
I do get the aspect of like it was really too casual, but the whole he's excited to immediately know, like,
I'm excited.
I can't wait to go back. She knows it's not what you're thinking. Like, I didn't get here the way you thought I got here. I do get the whole, like, I'll tell you in a little bit. Like, let me just enjoy because I know as soon as I tell you, you're going to hate me. And then this moment's ruined. It's like whether you know now or in 5 minutes, we're in the same situation. I get that.
That's true.
But the way they were so casual leading up to it and everything, it makes you seem more like, what are you doing? Like,
I definitely so looking at it from the point of view of like the casualness is like, oh, because our characters are so cool, they've grown, right? Because from Rebels there was zero indication that fucking they were gonna find him. Like there wasn't like possibly, because he specifically had made intentions to say, look, I'm going to try this thing. And if it works, I don't know. And nobody knew. And everything kind of, they stumbled upon it in Ahsoka as a whole. And so to not see Sabine after everything she's been through, not shed a single tear and try to be cool when she knows she's not cool based on all of her actions, definitely hard. At the same point in time as well, I think Baylan bringing Sabine along, aside from the fact that, he could have definitely killed her, but then he's kind of saving that loyalty, respect situation by holding his word to Sabine. I think she holds a larger role to Baylan moving forward. And I think that's cascaded with the fact that she's also fighting Ezra, because that's the point of why he brought Sabine. But I also think that he holds and is looking for more from her. So that's, I guess, a warm take. I didn't mind too much their casualness, but at the same point in time, it didn't feel true. It didn't feel genuine. It felt like this would be the cool thing to do right now.
Yeah. Because could you imagine you're like, this might work. And then on his journey there, he must have been like, well, I'm never seeing anybody ever again.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you see someone. I want to see like when he sees her with him, like, holy fuck. Fucking play cool. Like, like he's cool. Trying to create because really you'd be like, you think he'd break down.
Yeah,
he's like,
I think that would have made the scene better for sure. Yeah. Because you know what? I think he's trying to tap into this whole, if you want to think about cool, you think of Han Solo in Star Wars, right? Like Han Solo and Lando always were like the cool guys, like, damn, that was lucky, but it worked. Like, I love you. I know. And like, might never see her again. Right.
Yeah.
He was trying to tap into that, maybe, I feel like, but it just doesn't. It doesn't work in that situation because we know how hard Sabine has been fighting to get back to him. And we also take into account that you're right. He got taken away 5 years ago and he's like, fuck, well, my whole life back there is gone. Yeah. So he's just be like, take your log.
Like,
oh shit, I've been waiting to get off this planet.
In a smaller comparison, we've seen Castaway.
Freaking out.
If Tom Hanks was like, oh, cool ship, right on. Like,
yeah.
like he thought he was stuck on the island forever. Like,
yeah,
there's no
exactly.
way.
Which your reaction, it just doesn't make sense in that grand scheme of things. And maybe at the same time, it felt a little overshadowed because of how epic Thrawn's entrance was. Like Thrawn's entrance with that ship coming up over the horizon, and then right in the middle between the tower, you see all the TIE fighters. And we didn't even talk about all the different stormtroopers.
Duh.
Gold.
Yeah. Enoch.
Like, what is it? With Enoch. But that Japanese term, which is like, what is it? Kinitsugi? Where you repair something, but you put the gold in it. And I love that element. I feel like they're really playing heavy into that. And it gave the stormtroopers like a different element of creepiness and grittiness, and the fact that they've still followed him despite them being in a different galaxy and them not knowing where the F they are. Like all that stuff it just shows how devoted they are. So
because their armor's that entrance like it made me think like their armor's like dirty. Like
how do they get food?
No,
where's their bathrooms at? Like, what's going on?
A lot of that wondering. I'm like, how? He said they lost some people over the time, but I don't know if they just been eating them or
because they ate them.
But the fact that like they fucking get up and they put on this dirty armor every day and they follow this order, like to me, they're like obviously it's not good enough for them to clean their armor. So like times are tough there, but they got a ship that still runs on solar. I don't know.
I guess. But what are they playing Uno? What are they doing?
reverse.
Standing out all day. I don't know. There's a lot of questions, but still very. Yeah, they're almost. It felt like an undead army almost.
Yes, but are they undead? I know I've seen some things online. People saying it's an undead army. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if they are. I don't think they are. But when you talk about Night Sisters and reincarnation, like maybe they are. I don't know. But I feel like having that entrance in the middle of the episode it definitely diminished the Ezra entrance at the end of the episode.
For sure.
And then, you coupled that with the casualness and how that scene played out.
Yeah.
And what we know Sabine has done. And it's like, So I feel like, I was never a massive fan of Ezra in Rebels. It was always the throwback characters that I was stoked on. I really liked Kanan. I thought he was one of the better characters. I liked Hera. Of course, you liked Sabine, Zeb. But Ahsoka coming back made it really badass. Ezra was one of those characters that was like, I guess, but because he's kind of the new Jedi, I'm forced to kind of follow along, and they made him seem really powerful and tied to the Force. But I don't know. Ezra still has a lot to prove to me, I think, moving forward, even at the end of Ahsoka, because at the end of the show, right, it has to be about her. It has to be about what Ahsoka learned from this and what she overcomes.
Yeah.
But I think even moving forward, Ezra is going to be one of those characters. He has a lot to prove to me. Okay. For me to really be like, Ezra's so sick. Because
I agree.
I've rarely ever said that, except for his lightsaber, which if you watch Rebels was badass because it was part gun, part lightsaber.
Whoa, that's
so it could
sick.
do both. Yeah. So because he's like really good mechanically, I guess.
We didn't see it either. It wasn't on his person, was it?
No, I didn't see it. Apparently somebody looked at, he's kind of wearing some chainmail, and they said it was stormtrooper dog tags. So he's been like killing some stormtroopers over the last 5-7 years, making chainmail out of it.
I get
that's cool.
For all the time, if they want to like pimp him to be like the newest cool Boken quote unquote Jedi, right? And he's had all this time to hone his skills. Like, if that's what they're pimping him as, he better be so badass. Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they could easily get there, but it's. I think we have to like him first.
Oh, that's
and
true.
I still just I've never like.
Shave.
I don't mind grow the beard, man.
Okay.
You rock it, But it just doesn't really. His character has just never been one of my favorites. So if he is going to be the Rey moving forward or whatever, right, for Filoni's movie, because it has to be around some main character. Like they have to do a lot of work in between that movie and now for me to be like, hell yeah. Or even in that movie for me to be like, hell yeah, Ezra's killing it. I don't know. So that's my one thing. But oh man, Thrawn. I can't wait for Thrawn. I can't wait to see what Enoch does and the rest of the stormtroopers.
Yeah.
I'm more like on the bad guy side right now. I'm like, fuck it, Thrawn, fuck everybody up. Let's go.
Yeah, it's funny because I almost like I want to see him get to the highest point of power so we could get more movies or something. Like I want him to be the next big bad.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's cool. I'm excited to go back eventually and watch like Clone Wars and Rebels. Seeing all this made me think like, I guess in the sense of like when we talk about One Piece, it's like, oh, it's like there's so much. Like it sounds like there's still good stories to be had. So I'll go back, take it at my own time, and like just get through it. And like there's a lot to enjoy there, and this episode reminded me of that. So that's pretty cool. I saw some comments too of like people were like, oh, so what is like Ahsoka just like Rebels then? And I was thinking like, why wouldn't you build off a good story? Like why would you have to just create a new story just because it has something to do with some other story? Like if it was a good story and it's Filoni, like I feel like he's doing a good job of like continuing an awesome story that everyone loved. And even to the point where like I don't know anything about Rebels, but this makes me want to go back and check out Rebels. And I'm still getting a lot of Ahsoka. Like I'm really enjoying seeing her. So I don't see any downside of it. People are silly.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I completely agree with you. I think it's kind of, from what I understand, it seems like it's a little bit of the Marvel problem too, where it's like, wait, do I have to go back and watch 10 years worth of stuff to like understand what's going on in this story? Yeah. And like, I do kind of understand that, but I agree with you too. It's like, and hearing it from your perspective, and even from Christina's, who didn't watch any of the Clone Wars or anything like that, she still is really enjoying Ahsoka. So if you're waiting to watch Ahsoka because you're like, I have to watch all of Clone Wars or Rebels, you don't. Yeah. You don't have to do that. Like you can just jump in, enjoy the character, and appreciate the story for what it is now. The first Star Wars that we ever got, A New Hope, was basically about this farm boy who was on this desert planet who wanted to go on an adventure. And that's all we knew about it up to that point. We didn't know about the Clone Wars. We didn't know about all these different Sith. We didn't know about all these different Jedi. We didn't know about the history of this universe yet. So like, if you think that you need to go back and watch all this stuff to enjoy it, that's very much not the case. And yes, it just builds on an already really successful, fun, great thing. So yeah, agreed. Well, we're right on, guys. I think that's kind of it for tonight. Any other closing thoughts? Anything else you want to share?
The only thing I want to share is that if you're into magic and you're into Jurassic Park, this new situation that Magic the Gathering / Wizards of the Coast is coming out with is going to be Jurassic Park heavy right after they just brought out Lord of the Rings. So it seems as if they're going to bring in a lot of cool pop culture into the Magic realm. So if you're down for Magic and you enjoy collecting Magic cards or playing Magic, they got some cool stuff coming up.
Nice.
There's the MTG plug.
Hell yeah. Drake will be running all of our Magic the Gathering content on social media from now on. So tune in to see Drake talk about new Magic the Gathering.
Just wasting money, but then also kind of adding some value. We'll see.
Yeah. And stay tuned. If you're not following us on social media, tune in because Scott's doing a video as well very soon. That'll be out before the end of the month. So tune in for that.
Yeah. Tune in, guys. It's gonna be a fucking big one, maybe.
Thanks for sticking it with us.
Thanks for sticking it with us. Ah, crap.
The Joystick Show.
If you've enjoyed what you've been listening to, we'd really appreciate a follow, subscribe, and a review. Just how we like chatting with our friends, please share this with yours. Feel free to join the squad and follow us at JoyStickShow Joystick Show on Twitter and Instagram, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you feel like submitting topics or questions to be discussed on future episodes, you can email us at joystick.show@gmail.com. As always, thank you, peace out, and make it a great rest of your week.